Tonight on Her Say, we talk cesarean section, commonly known as C-section or CS, whose use has continued to rise globally, with the World Health Organization reporting that 1 in 5 childbirths globally are as a result of a CS, and that number is set to continue rising again according to the WHO. So what should a woman know before having a C-section, and what does a CS aftercare entail? That's a conversation we shall be having on Her Say shortly on this broadcast, but first, the highlights.
Sasa tuna habari ya kwamba bei ya mafuta katika soko ya ulimwengu imerudi chini. Sasa natakana mwezi huu wapunguze bei ya mafuta na shilingi 45 kwa lita.
Raila wants the Kenya Kwanza administration to lower the price of fuel by 50 shillings this December.
Thank you very much.
President William Ruto urges the youth to be champions of climate change.
And so I agree with Kiraitu Murungi that the fight against corruption is a matter of life and death.
EACC now says political leaders are hindering efforts to combat corruption. And we shall tell you about a woman who faces societal rejection due to her choice to venture into the coffin-making business. Welcome to the broadcast. We're glad you could join us on this 9th day of December 2023. We invite you to engage with us on our social media handles at TV47 News on X, TV47 Kenya on Facebook, and my X handle is at Grace Kuria KE. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Catherine Simaloy, and my name is Grace Kuria Kanja. Welcome to the broadcast. Now, today marked the official opening of the 6th Africa Youth Summit, themed Youth Innovating a Borderless Africa. President William Ruto actively promoted free trade policies, specifically advocating for the elimination of visa requirements across the continent. The head of state, at the same time, urged the youth to take a leading role in mitigating the effects of climate change. Sheila Chelangat kicks us off tonight.
More than 20,000 delegates from across the continent graced the 6th Africa Youth Summit, each proudly displaying the culture and colors of their countries.
It's my first time at it is Hakuna Matata.
The grounds radiating with the creative and innovative works of youth from around Africa.
Africa has a rich heritage of statesmen, leaders who decades ago foresaw the unstoppable power of a united Africa.
The summit launch today aims to reignite the African dream of fostering an exchange of ideas that will position Africa at the forefront of innovations.
Like, for instance, I come from West Africa, the Gambia. There are a lot of young people that are traveling through the backway, and this is as a result of greener pasture. Now, if finance is made possible, if it is made available to them, things like that wouldn't be.
As Africa strives to compete on the global stage, the need for borderless commerce was emphasized, with Kenya leading by planning to eliminate visa requirements for African countries.
Our good brothers from Europe came and taught us about visas. The visas they told us, or they taught us, they themselves have abolished visas in 27 countries. They today are borderless. They are visaless. 450 million people. Explain to me why we should continue to have visas in our continent.
Also with this summit, the youth aspired to be at the center of conversations around climate action, advocating for an overhaul of the financing system that Africa has been calling for.
I feel that it's not enough for youths just to give ideas. We also feel that they should sit at the tables. tables of decision making, tables of policy making, and that's why we believe in the youth.
Further, the delegates at the conference have been encouraged to explore Nairobi. This summit enters day 2 tomorrow with the focus centered on conversations around innovation, the digital era, as well as borderless commerce. Sheila Chelangat for TV47 at the KICC grounds in Nairobi.
Right, thank you, Sheila Chelangat, for that. Let's move on. And the chairperson of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, David Ogende, now says that politicians are obstructing the country's efforts to combat corruption. According to Ogende, certain members of parliament have taken actions perceived as attempts to weaken the impact of the anti-graft initiative. Speaking during the celebrations to mark International Anti-Corruption Day, Ogende said one notable effort is a proposed amendment by MPs aiming to shift procurement breaches from legal recourse to administrative action. Vera Alberta with the details.
The chairperson of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, David Ogende, now says that politicians are impeding the fight against corruption.
TSCC, that some of the men and women involved in corruption are armed and dangerous. But because you are an enemy to the destiny and the future of our people, we are going to face you with courage and with boldness.
Speaking during celebrations to mark World Anti-Corruption Day in Murang'a County, Ogende emphasized that victory in the war against corruption can only be achieved when everyone, including politicians, collaborate to eradicate this menace.
It leads to impunity and impedes access to justice. Corruption leads to crime when criminals are allowed to have a free hand because they have bribed or corrupted law enforcement agencies.
According to EACC Chief Executive Officer Twalib Barak, the battle against corruption begins with the choices made by the people during elections.
It is evident in this country that we have been arguing that one of the reasons the EACC is having a problem in fighting corruption is that the public elect wrong people. When it comes to election, get the right people and you will see development from your constituency, from your ward, from your county.
During the event, they also discussed the causes and the effects of corruption, attributing it to the hindrance of development in the country.
Corruption precipitates high cost of living that all of us are experiencing. It leads to breakdown in law. It leads to inequitable distribution of resources and opportunities. It leads to poor infrastructure, roads, water, hospitals.
This event follows the announcement of the completion of investigations into various graft cases across the country, with EACC pledging to escalate efforts in the fight against corruption. Vera Alberta, TV47.
Thank you, Vera Alberta, for that. Now, tonight, the Ministry of Health has sounded an alarm over the escalating instances of respiratory and vector-borne diseases attributable to the adverse effects of climate change. Health Principal Secretary Mary Muthoni has projected an increase in respiratory diseases attributed to the cold conditions induced by heavy rains. This as many counties continue to grapple with the adverse floods that continue to wreak havoc, claiming the lives of 168 people. Elizabeth Atieno with more.
Tonight, the Ministry of Health has raised concerns on thousands of Kenyans whose lives are at risk following a possible cholera outbreak in many parts of the country due to floods.
The emergence and re-emergence of some diseases like cholera, polio, we must sort out climate change.
Over 500,000 people have been displaced, facing exposure to cold weather that increases the risk of respiratory diseases such as flu, cough, and pneumonia.
Climate change contributes to a larger percentage of our respiratory diseases. It's a high time we took it seriously. His Excellency the President has already given us a challenge: 15 billion trees by the year 2032.
the heavy rains paints a grim picture of the adverse impacts of climate change. Public Health Principal Secretary Mary Muthoni has raised concerns on the projected rise in respiratory and vector-borne diseases if Kenyans fail to join hands and implement climate mitigation measures.
No, you and myself, we know that if we do not plant trees and we allow our soil to get eroded, and at the final end, we may not have the crops, the products from our farms that we anticipate, then we are bound to get malnutrition. We are bound to get displaced. We are bound to have children who may not be going to school.
Muthoni's statement follows a prior warning from the office of the government spokesperson about storms and intense rainfall expected in Lake Victoria, Western Kenya, and the South Rift Valley.
The ministry will continue to collaborate in sourcing for resources to support various emergency response efforts in this country.
The Ministry of Health is working tirelessly to issue emergency responses to locals at risk of contracting malaria. Elizabeth Atieno, TV47.
Thank you, Elizabeth Atieno, for that. Now, Azimio coalition leader Raila Odinga has renewed pressure on the Kenya Kwanza administration to reduce fuel prices, saying global oil prices are on a downward trend. Odinga, who spoke in Kajiado County, said it will be unfair for the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, EPRA, not to reduce the fuel prices and lessen Kenyans' burden on the high cost of living. Odinga spoke as his core principals, Kalonzo Musyoka and Martha Karua, asked the civil society not to let down their guard on democracy. Apollo Kamau with more.
Pressure continues to mount on the Kenya Kwanza administration to reduce fuel prices ahead of next week's review. Azimio coalition leader Raila Odinga has told the government to review prices downwards by 45 to 50 shillings, going by a drop in global oil prices to ease the burden of the cost of living on Kenyans this festive season.
Sasa tuna habari ya kwamba bei ya mafuta katika soko ya ulimwengu imerudi chini. Sasa natakana mwezi huu wapunguze bei ya mafuta na shilingi 45 kwa lita. Sio ati shilingi 5, shilingi 10 peke yake. 45 au 50 kwa lita. Manake bei ya mafuta imerudi chini kabisa katika soko ya ulimwengu.
During last month's review, super petrol prices remained unchanged, standing at 217 shillings a litre, while diesel and kerosene dropped by 2 shillings. The fuel review call comes as the National Dialogue Team said its report is now before Parliament. The report, which is yet to be tabled, has divided Azimio over the cost of living and is likely to elicit a heated debate once tabled.
I know this is a very trying moment for Kenyans, even as we pursue justice and we pursue democratic gains. That is a mission that was given to us, Chair. It was not the political class. It was a result of Kenyans shedding blood and police not being held accountable for use of live bullets against innocent demonstrators.
Odinga's core principals, Martha Karua and Kalonzo Musyoka, have rallied the civil society not to let down their guard on keeping the Ruto administration on its toes, with Azimio claiming the hard-fought democratic gains are being eroded.
ICJ Kenya, please be strong for your motherland.
There is a trend, especially in Africa, of an constitutional takeover of powers under the pretext of elections, where elections are rigged before your very eyes.
The two spoke during the International Jurist of the Year Award, where Katiba Institute's Dudley Ochiel was feted as Jurist of the Year. Apol Kamau, TV47.
Right, thank you so much, Apollo Kamau, for that. Now, Sports and Youth Affairs Cabinet Secretary Babu Namwamba is currently hosting a youth delegates of the Youth Connect Africa Summit for a dinner at the Nairobi National Park. Take a look.
Summit 2023. We have the Global Center on Adaptation, the GCA, a very special partner. Today you heard my president talk about the 1 million youth green army on climate adaptation. It's a special partnership between the Ministry of Youth Affairs, Creative Economy and Sport.
All right, that was Sports and Youth Affairs Cabinet Secretary Babu Namwamba there, who is currently hosting youth delegates of the Youth Connect Africa Summit for a dinner at the Nairobi National Park there. The Youth Connect Summit has been ongoing pretty much this week. Remember, we did have that piece by Sheila Chelangat where she spoke about today being the official opening of the 6th Africa Youth Summit that is themed Youth Innovating a Borderless Africa. And remember, it has brought together youth from various parts of the continent, various parts of Gambia, of Africa. I mentioned Gambia because I did see Sheila speak to one of the youth there from the country of Gambia. Let's move on. And African traditions have traditionally assigned specific communal duties, often excluding women from certain responsibilities which are typically reserved for men. In Western Kenya, for example, women are conventionally prohibited from actively participating in the final send-off activities for the deceased, including tasks such as grave digging and coffin making. Nevertheless, there is a notable shift as some women adopt conflicting stances, actively taking on roles traditionally considered a taboo for them to fulfill their needs. Our reporter Arnold Adidi interviewed a 52-year-old woman who has defied Tiriki traditions, showcasing her exceptional skills in coffin making.
Tradition and culture are integral components that distinctly characterize the communities in the western parts of the country. Without exception, both the young and the old pay homage to the age-old traditions, with community elders acting as the primary custodians. However, recent times have witnessed a notable shift in these long-standing practices. This is Cheptulu Market in Hamisi Sub-County, and business is booming here. My attention is drawn to a bustling coffin-making workshop, and as I draw closer, I meet Knight Vihenda, a 52-year-old renowned coffin maker and the proud owner of this establishment. Knight is engrossed in her work with several deliveries scheduled for the day. She is well aware that her chosen profession is not readily accepted by the community elders. The question arises, how did she find herself in this unconventional occupation?
Before nijifunze, kwanza nilikuwa nikilimia watu shambani. Kila asubuhi ningetoka na jembe nitafute chakula ya watoto. Lakini nikafika mahali nikachoka. Nikasema hapana, kazi ya kujisimamia ni mzuri. Hasa nikaambia mzee, nataka unipatie part nusu kidogo tu. Mimi nitengeneze kidogo na wewe uchukue part nyingine. Nione naweza fanya hiyo kazi. Na akaniambia basi unaweza tengeneza, kuna sanduku tunaita velvet. Hiyo ni sanduku ya bei ya chini. Tunauza moja na 1500.
Her decision to become a coffin maker is quite costly. She lost her close friends. With this, she realized that she was challenging deeply rooted community values.
Hata nyumbani kwetu bradhangu walishtuka. kusikia natengeneza masanduku kama ninagonga. Walifika mahali paka wifi yangu anakuja ananiuliza, "Hey, kwani wewe unatengeneza masanduku?" Nikamwambia, "Hey, natengeneza." Akasema, "Ai, bwana hii ni kazi ngumu. Sasa unatengeneza tu mwenyewe?" Nikamwambia, "Eh, watu wengi saa hizi tumeingia kama kanisani, mila tumezibana kiasi. Mila hatuzifuatilii sana. Kwa sababu tungefuatilia mila singekuwa saa hizi natengeneza sanduku. Ningekuwa nimekafukuziwa mbali sana."
The shockwaves extended beyond Knight's immediate circle. As a woman in a traditionally male-dominated field, she had to navigate carefully to secure customers and make sales.
Baada wakuja wanasema, "Ai, kwani hii masanduku wengine walikuwa wanakuja wanaume, wanashtuka wanasema, "Kwani hii sanduku inaundwa na mwanamke?" Inabidi nijifiche. Ninajificha ndio wachukue sanduku waende. Hata sikuwa nawaitikia rahisi kwa sababu labda ungeitikia mtu angetoka aende. Aseme hapana, ya mwanamke haistahili mtu mwenye labda ameenda chandoni alale kwa sanduku ya mwanamke. Hasa ilikuwa changamoto tena.
For Knight, this workshop is not just a source of income but also a means to achieve economic empowerment. However, Tiriki elders in the area perceive it as a potential threat to the men in the community.
Mila ya Mutiriki hairuhusu mwanamke kuzika mtu mufu wala kutengeneza jeneza. Kuna kulingana na mila, mlikuanga mkizaa watoto wakikufa, mnaweza zaa watoto hata zaidi ya 5 ama mkifika 3 wakikufa mpaka aitiwe wazee wale wa kimila wachunguze ni nini nafanya watoto wanaaga. Wanakuta ni kama anazika watu ama anachimba makaburi.
In the era of gender equity and equality, these elders argue that there is need to respect the diverse cultural provisions of Africans. Failure to do so, they claim, could jeopardize the existence of men as a revered species.
Hata kama wanaweza wacha mila zetu sisi zitalete madhara. Kwetu sisi bado tunazingatia maneno ya mila. Hatukubali vitu kama hizo viingizwe kwa sababu ya uchumi. Kwa sababu ya uchumi hapana, tunakataa. Hata kama uchumi imepanda, Mutiriki anasema afanye kazi nyingine, lakini kuzika mtu hata hawezi kukaa na mwanaume, hasa mwanamume Mutiriki yule ametairiwa Kitiriki hawezi hata kaingia kwa nyumba akisikia amezika mtu ama ametengeneza jeneza. Hiyo ni biashara nadra sana.
Surprisingly, at Knight's workshop, her husband Michael Balanga, who is also a co-worker, fully supports his wife's endeavors.
Lakini mimi nilifurahi kwa sababu anachukua ujuzi. Wakati mwingine kama mimi sina, yeye atakuwa nayo. Wakati wao huko yeye anafanya unapata. Na wakati hayuko wewe unafanya yeye anapata. Kenya saa hii si kile Kenya ilikuwa ya zamani, ilikuwa ya kina mababu zetu. Kenya saa hii ni Kenya tofauti. Na usipojituma hakuna Kenya utapata kukula.
I sought views from the men in this locality who, according to traditions, are said to be in danger as women assume duties meant for them.
Ni ya kwamba wanafanya kwamba wanaume hawataendelea kuwa. Ndiposa wakati mmoja unapata ya kwamba wanaume hata wagonjeki wanakatika tu. Kisa na maana ni kwamba hao wameshaanza kuvunja hiyo mila yetu. Yeye mwenyewe kupatikana na madhara ni ngumu sana kwa sababu ukiangalia mtu ambaye ukiangalia mandate yake, mtu ambaye anafanyanga madhambi sana, ukiangalia kwa ishi yake anaweza kuishi sana, lakini katika kizazi ambacho huyu anatokezea utapata kwamba kinaangamia.
Despite the numerous challenges associated with her work, this occupation remains a vital source of income for the mother of 7.
Kazi ni kujituma. Usichague kazi. Siku hizi kila kitu unafanya kazi ile unaona itakupatia chakula cha watoto cha kesho.
The economic heat being experienced across the country seems to be pushing many out of the long-held traditions, and Knight here is one amongst many women who are going an extra mile. Reporting from Vihiga County, my name is Arnold Adidi.
Indeed, such a lovely, interesting and comprehensive piece there by my colleague Arnold Adidi. Great job, Arnold. And you've heard, yeah, usichague kazi, okay? So, to the world of sports now, and former Harambee Stars players Paul Mungai Kiongera, Wilson Obungu Oburu, and David Kingatua are among 28 new coaches that have graduated with CAF C coaching license. The 5-week program was conducted by the CAF and FKF instructor Twahir Muhidin and Zedekiah Otieno at Mbaraki, Mombasa. Former Bandari FC and now Sofapaka FC goalkeeper trainer Wilson Obungu has urged active and former players to enroll into the coaching programs to help in shaping and taking Kenyan football to another level.
Kozi imeisha leo ambayo ilichukua 5 weeks. Kuna kila aina ya watu, tuna former players, tuko na coaches wa clubs kutoka kwa different tiers, kuna watu wako county, kuna watu wako NSL, wengine wako division 1 ambao wamepata hii nafasi. Na kama federation hii nafasi inapatiwa ili kuweza kuboresha mpira wetu wa Kenya. Tukitoa mfano, makoches hawa majority ndio wale ambao wamesaidia hawa vijana wetu tunaona ambao walikuwa kwa Sekafa under 18. Wanatusaidia mashinani kukuza hivi vipaji.
Ningependa kushukuru Mwenyezi Mungu na pia ningependa kushukuru federation kwa kuwa wametupatia opportunity ya kuweza kupata mafunzo kama haya ambayo tunapata kutoka kwa D tukienda C. Wametilia mkazo na wametupatia opportunity sana wale ambao wana ari. Na sisi ambao ni former players tumepata hiyo opportunity. Hapo kitambo ilikuwa hizo nafasi kuzipata ni ngumu. Zingine zilikuwa zinapeanwa kwa kujuana, lakini kwa saizi ziko wazi, tunazipata na tuna opportunity nzuri sana ya kuweza kusaidia nchi kuleta zile talent zingine ziweze kufika katika kiwango cha juu. Kwa hivyo certificate kama hiyo ambayo tumepewa, sio tunapewa tu ili tuwe nazo, lakini tumepewa ili tuweze kusaidia nchi, tuendeleze zile uwezo ambazo tunazo, kuweza kusaidia nchi kuleta wachezaji wengine wazuri, kuchukua nafasi zile ambazo sisi tulikuwa tuko nazo na wao kuweza wapitishe zaidi hapa hali tulifika.
Now, the Chuka University Scorpions will face off against Embu's Predators in the regional finals slated for tomorrow at Kinoru Stadium. The Scorpions advanced to the regional finals by edging out Machakos Boys 5-4 in a penalty shootout. After the game ended in a 1-1 draw in regular time, the Scorpions took the lead in the 33rd minute through Robinson Moreira, with Agustino Maya equalizing in the 38th minute, resulting in a 1-1 draw. Now, in the girls' category, last edition's finalists Chuka Starlets will compete against Siomunyu Secondary School from Kitui. Chuka Starlets secured a 1-0 victory against Saku Queens from Marsabit, earning them a spot in the finals with hopes of claiming the regional titles. Beth Kathomi scored the only goal for Chuka University Starlets through a penalty in the 54th minute.
Imekuwa mzuri, tumekuwa able to win against Marsabit 1-0, and it was an equally not an easy team. It has taken a lot of consistency and hard work for the girls to beat the other team. Yes, of course, the team ifike regionals, it is not an easy team. Hapa team zote ni champions from their counties, so tulikuwa tuna expect a tough game. Nimekuwa tough, but we thank God tumeshinda.
Nasema kwanza ni asante kwa God kwa hiyo win tumepata leo. Na pia hiyo win tumeifightia sana juu come back from 2-1 to 3-2. Game imekuwa tough, lakini tunashukuru God tumeweza kujisukuma na tukapata kitu. Kufunga bao mbili haijakuwa rahisi, haijakuwa pia ngumu. Juu pia vile nafunga vile nilikuwa nimetrain and prepared, nitafunga magoli pia mingi. Ndio pia kesho na expect kufunga. Lakini pia kufunga leo imenipatia motivation ya kesho.
Ni furaha kubwa sana. Haikuwa rahisi huko ndani. Tumesweat, timu haikuwa rahisi, lakini at the end of it all tumeshinda na tumefurahia sana kuqualify. So kesho tupatane na Kitui na tunajua tuko na imani tutashinda. Tutajituma kesho. Game ya leo imekuwa sawa. Hakukuwa na sijaona injuries mingi sana. So imekuwa fair play, kwa referees wamekuwa fair. So siwezi complain, game iko sawa.
Right, story time, okay? Because some of you really love breaking my heart. So listen to this. I put it out there that it's TV47 Weekend Edition and Say o'clock. And someone on Twitter, specifically Steve Mulwa, says, Grace, we are watching Arsenal, please. So listen to this, because Kimemramba, I'm told it's halftime at the English Premier League. This is at Villa Park. And Aston Villa, of course, is playing Arsenal. And guess what? It's 1-0. Aston Villa 1, Arsenal 0. Okay, so Steve, I don't know if you're still going to watch that match or you're going to tune in or come to Say TV47 Weekend Edition, okay? The choice is yours. But we're due for our very fast commercial break here on TV47 Weekend Edition. Stay with us. We come back with Say, that conversation I told you about on cesarean sections, okay? Our sign language interpreter tonight has been Catherine Simalo.
Wanasema wasemao kuwa elimu ni bahari haishi kwa kuchotwa. Wakati mwingi natangamana na wanafunzi madarasani, sio kama mwalimu bali kama nahodha kwenye kipindi cha tasnia ya elimu. Na iwapo utanikosa madarasani, basi utanipata nyanjani nikisaka habari zenye usawa, ufasaha na ukweli. Na iwapo utanikosa nyanjani, bila shaka utanipata studioni hapa nikisoma habari na kuendesha mijadala mikomavu. Mimi ni Andrin Kilemi, mpenzi wa lugha ya Kiswahili na elimu kwa jumla.
They say money makes the world go round. So let's slow things down a bit. Put things in perspective. From the markets to the streets to the stocks, we make the complex comprehensible. Join me, Hibak Said, on TV47 Business News for market insights like never before.
What's making the headlines? What does it mean to you? How does it affect you? We answer all these questions every Sunday for half an hour on To The Point Show. Hey, I'm Grace Kuriakanja, and a lot has happened this week. Let's dive into it.
The news that matters the most is the one that hits close to home. When disasters strike, we are there to inform you. When the bullets are flying, we tell you who's shooting and why. Reporting on your victories, your health, your money, your security, your past, present, and future. We are interested in telling the stories of creativity, hard work, and resilience that you are known for. That is our job. This is my job. My name is Victor Moyakane, and it's my honor to bring you this news this way every Thursday night on the home of Untold Stories.
Katika majengo haya, hapa ndipo sheria zinapotungwa na zinapopakuliwa. Nitakuletea viongozi mbalimbali, mirengo mbalimbali, wote kwa pamoja wakipika na kupakua. Tutawapa nafasi kuweza kuangazia changamoto na mafanikio ya ugatuzi katika ukumbi wa siasa kila siku ya Jumanne kuanzia saa 1 kamili na kuendelea.
kutoka eneo hili la Naivasha kwenye kaunti 032, gatuzi la Nakuru.
Kutoka kaunti ya Elgeyo Marakwet, kaunti 028.
Right, thank you so much for staying with us. Time now for Her Say. And remember, like I said before, our conversation tonight is on cesarean sections, commonly known as C-section or CS, okay? And my guests are already with me in studio, like you can see. Minnie Murori, who is a mother and a digital marketer. Karibu sana, thank you for joining us tonight. And of course, Dr. Angela Anzeze, who is an obstetrician gynecologist and a member of the Kenya Obstetrical and Gynecological Society. Karibu sana, Doc. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having us.
So, looks like we're going to start on a hostile note. Ask me why. Because, okay, of course, we put it out there that we're going to have this conversation tonight, and I did ask my viewers to engage with us on our social media handles. And listen to this comment by Like Kenya. He's obviously talking about CS, yeah, and he says it's not African. And it should be considered the last option for delivery. I mean, why? Why are we thinking like this, Doc, if I could start with you?
I would not say that's true. I don't think it should be considered as a last option. At the end of the day, as COGS, we want to ensure proper practice of reproductive health care and proper care of mothers, pregnant women, because pregnancy is a very high-risk state, and we need to ensure safe delivery of these women.
But when he says it's not African, I mean, does this project what some people think of us, women, of mothers? What is African? I mean, who said that this is how African women should deliver?
So, like the African culture, and what most people say is that, like the woman should undergo like pain, like during childbirth, like to say that you're a strong woman, you're a strong African woman. So yeah, that's where that mentality comes from. Like people think that like natural childbirth, like going through that pain is like worth it.
The way to go.
Is the way to go.
Okay. Minnie, such comments, I'm curious about how they make you feel, particularly because you're here, because you've had CSs, right? Yeah. What do you make of this?
Sometimes I get very angry. Yeah, because it looks like us who went through CS, we didn't want to feel the pain, but that's a lie. Because when I look back, when I was giving birth to my first kid, I had a placenta previa and my baby was in breech. So of course, I couldn't give birth naturally. And when I think back, when I was giving birth to my second kid, she was still in breech, and I had the first car. So, of course, I couldn't still give birth naturally. Yeah, so I usually get angry whenever I find women discussing, like us, we are lazy, we don't want to feel the pain. It hurts me, kinda.
That is not the case.
Yes.
Yeah. And Minnie, from what I'm getting, you clearly pretty much did not have a choice, you know, but to have a CS. But when you got pregnant, when you learned that you're pregnant, of course, you're going to have this baby in 9 months, did you envision a CS or a natural birth? I mean, if you were to choose between the two, which one would you go for?
For my first baby, no. I didn't even think I was to get a CS.
A CS, yeah.
Because in our family, I'm the first one, and of course, it seems like I'm the last one. So I didn't think about me getting that cut. No, never.
The second one?
The second one, it was like almost automatic. I was to get the cut because I had the previous car. So automatically I was to get a CS. So I was waiting for it. Yeah.
All right. I shall come back to you to get to know more of your story because, of course, the discussion tonight is on aftercare, and that is where you come in, Minnie, but I shall come back to you. Doc, when I started the show tonight, I had some statistics from the World Health Organization, which pretty much say that more than 1 in 5 childbirths, that is 21%, are as a result of CSs, and this number is projected to increase by 2030. We should be at 29%, yeah? And WHO is talking about some unnecessary CSs, yeah? But before we get there to these unnecessary cesarean sections, let's talk about the numbers, and particularly in Kenya. Do we see cases of, where a woman, a mother walks in and says, I want a CS, even though for not, valid reasons?
Well, yes, we've been having such cases, and that is just simply because some patients are not cancelled, or probably they're cancelled well, but they just lack enough awareness regarding, deliveries and birth preparedness. So some women are do not opt to undergo a normal vaginal delivery because of fear of pain. Yeah.
And you've mentioned it, and it's here. Tocophobia, I hope that's the correct pronunciation.
Yes.
I didn't actually know there is legit fear of vaginal birth, tocophobia.
Yes.
So it's actually a thing.
It's actually a thing. Most women actually fear that, the vaginal area would, or rather the anatomy would change or expand in quotes. So there's that fear, and there's also the fear of the process of childbirth. So all that make women come up with that, asking for a cesarean section. Yeah.
Right. So let's talk CS now. And for someone who probably doesn't know, what does it involve and how long does it take? I mean, some people would think that that process of delivery takes shorter for CS than normal. I don't know. You tell us.
So a cesarean section is delivery of a baby. It could be by emergency or planned by surgery. And a cut is made on the abdomen and the uterus, and the baby is delivered through the cut that's made, and that's followed by the placenta. And all those places that were cut are now closed in layers. Yes. So that's what a CS entails, and it takes about 1 hour on average. It depends. That's the average time. It may be shorter, it may be longer, and not all. Some cesarean sections may have certain complications, and that makes the process maybe slightly longer than the average CS.
What complications?
So, for example, if it's a previous cesarean section, previous cesarean sections have higher rates of complications. Like, for example, placental complications. The placenta may not be well placed, or may undergo difficult delivery, or even bleeding. Bleeding is the most common complication of a cesarean section, and that can take the process longer than a normal straightforward cesarean section.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, Minnie, I want to take you to your first CS before we talk about the second one. And clearly yours was an emergency situation. It was not planned, yeah? So when you were told, I assume you were told, I want you to take us through that, how you were told, how you received this news that it's going to be a CS, how your family received it, because you were telling us you were the first and probably the last. Take us through that.
I didn't think I could have a CS. So I made one mistake. When I was doing my antenatal care, I was going to a different hospital, and I decided to give birth in a different hospital. So they didn't have any data about my pregnancy, about everything. So I labored, yes. I labored for more than 24 hours. I don't know why they didn't do an ultrasound, but I labored. So the following day in the morning, they were like, no, you can't give birth now. And I was like, I want this baby out. I was even tired. I was begging them to take the baby out. So I'm not quite sure how it took it, because I was begging. And The funniest thing, my family didn't know about it. They came to hear that I gave birth through CS because it was very fast. Yes, it wasn't planned in any way. Yeah.
And if we could skip and go to the healing part of this first one, let's not get to the second pregnancy yet. So how was it after, that healing beat, and how 6 weeks, doc? That's what it should take to heal. But what was your experience like?
It was very easy. I remember that morning after my C-section, I was sitting down. A few hours I was walking around. It was very, very easy. I can't compare it to the second one. The second one, I was almost bedridden. I couldn't even turn in my bed. I couldn't sit up without support. The two scenarios were very different. And I was like not expecting that. I thought the second one will be as easy as the first one.
All right, now that you brought it up, let's talk about it, okay? We shall engage Doc on the intricacies of it. But you have mentioned it, your experience with the second one, but what are some of these complications that arose?
I was feeling a lot of pain. Because I remember the day I was discharged, I cried, I wailed. I wasn't sure why the doctor was letting me go with all the pain. I remember the first day after I arrived home with the baby, I didn't breastfeed her. The pain was too much. I couldn't sit down, and the most unfair thing, both my nipples were cracked. I was in so much pain. I didn't breastfeed her. I left the baby with my husband to sort her out. It was, I can't imagine, the pain was too much.
All right, I shall come back to you. Doc, what can go wrong in a CS, which you mentioned, the procedure itself, but in the healing process too?
So complications of cesarean section include infection. First, even before infection, I mentioned bleeding. Bleeding can be very heavy, and that's what you call postpartum hemorrhage. And in the event that it's very heavy, the patient ends up, undergoing certain procedures, having certain medications, and having a prolonged stay, depending on how severe it is. So that prolonged stay, and as a result of that whole process, puts the body under stress. So this predisposes the mother to, infection. Infection on the wound, infection that spreads even to the inside of the organs that surrounds the uterus and all that. And that may also predispose her to undergoing a second surgery to clear the infection, because it forms pus. And so the pus needs to be cleared, drained, and she's put under medication again. And this may also predispose her to even being admitted into maybe ICU, depending on how severe it is. So it can go to such an extreme.
Wow, I feel like I want to ask, what should be done to prevent that? Is there anything that can be done?
So normally we give antibiotics as per the local guidelines, and as what we as COGS recommend. We give antibiotics prophylactically when the procedure is starting, and also throughout her stay in hospital. And we also counsel the mother, even while we're seeing her antenatally, before we admit her for cesarean section, we tell her, look, you are about to undergo a CS. This is the procedure, what it entails, and the possible complications and the possible risks. So by the time she's going to hospital, at least she has knowledge about it. And we also explain what to do after the surgery. Proper wound care, hygiene issues, take your medication as you're supposed to. Don't stop, complete your dose of antibiotics. Don't stop taking your antibiotics prematurely, because it can predispose to infection. And we give creams and wound care products to take care of the wound.
Right, and Minnie, of course, no blame game here, but what Doc is talking about, did you experience it? Did you have, the medics at the hospital you are in explain to you that probably this is what is going to happen, this is what you should do? Because you actually did say that when they were discharging you, felt like, or you asked why they're doing it when you're in so much pain.
So unfortunately they didn't. And unfortunately my CS wound opened after 2 weeks. I had to go back to the hospital for for more 3 weeks for treatment. Yeah.
So when all this is happening, what is happening to you emotionally, psychologically? Because I can imagine this is not just physical, it's beyond physical.
I'd say I was very, very broken and frustrated at the same time, because I didn't imagine this could happen to me. And the worst thing, the CS wound was even smelling. I don't know why. So when I went back to the hospital, they were dressing the wound daily to see if it closes. And I was very lucky I didn't go back to the theater to be stitched again. Yeah.
Doc, should that really happen?
Well, it's also one of the complications. Infection is another common complication after postpartum hemorrhage. So it may happen.
All right, okay, okay. Let's switch gears now and speak to something that should have been at the beginning, because our viewers would want to know when a CS is essential, when it's really, really necessary to have a CS.
Okay, so those are the indications of a cesarean section. It may be an emergency or it may be planned. An emergency occurs whereby maybe the status of the mother is at risk. For example, if she has very high blood pressures or she's convulsing as a result of those high blood pressures. So her life is at risk at that point and the baby's life is at risk at that point. So we need to initiate delivery as soon as possible. So the purpose of a CS in emergency situations is to deliver the baby as soon as possible to prevent further complications of the baby. Another example is maybe the baby may be too big for the baby to pass through, through the pelvis, through the birth canal, or in some situations the baby may not be positioned well. Yeah, so we need the baby's head to be facing down, but if it's the other way around, which is called breech, that you need to deliver via cesarean section. Placental issues are another common thing, especially in mothers who've had previous cesarean sections. So they're likely to have placental issues. Maybe their location may not be the correct position. It may be blocking the way out of the baby, like if it's low lying or if you've heard of placenta previa. Or if it's even abnormally attached to the uterus, like if you've undergone multiple CSs, in some cases the placenta may attach abnormally to the uterus, and it can even go beyond the uterus to the surrounding organs, and that's called placenta accreta, like it's abnormally attached. It can even go through and through all the layers of the uterus to the surrounding organs like the bladder. So in such situations, it's not advisable to deliver normally. So we advise the mother to undergo a cesarean section. Another thing, another indication is fetal distress. I don't know if you've heard about that, or you've had mothers say my baby got tired. So that's fetal distress. That occurs when the baby's status in the womb is now at risk because the blood supply of the baby is maybe compromised. And when the blood supply is compromised, now the baby starts to get distressed, or in layman terms, tired, and passes stool in the womb, and that's called fetal distress. And they pass meconium. Meconium is now that stool they pass. So whenever you see that greenish color of amniotic fluid liquor, and that's an indication that tells you this baby is not doing well and we need to do something to deliver as fast as possible. Yeah.
All right, so that is emergency.
That is emergency.
CS, and there is planned CS.
Yes. So planned CS is when maybe during antenatal care, and that's why we emphasize the importance of antenatal care. You do ultrasounds to check, is the size of the baby okay? Is the baby's position okay? Is the placenta located in the right place? So once we do antenatal ultrasounds, we are able to now plan the delivery earlier And now when we see those abnormalities, now we tell you we need to plan your cesarean section. Another indication is if you've had multiple cesarean sections. So like, for example, two cesarean sections or one cesarean section. And maybe that one cesarean section depends on why the previous cesarean section was performed. So like if it's a two cesarean sections, we say you cannot try a normal delivery. But if it's a one previous cesarean section, it depends. We don't always say like, because you've had a one previous cesarean section, like it's not possible to deliver normally. It's possible, but it depends on why the previous CS was done, and it depends on the current status of the pregnancy. Will it allow a normal delivery? Things like weight of the baby, and how long ago was the previous cesarean section done. So if it's something like a year or less, then we say that may be a bit risky to undergo a normal delivery because of risk of the scar giving way, or we call it rupture, risk of uterine rupture. So things like that. Those are now the indications of how we plan cesarean section.
Right. And you know, Doc, you're taking me back to the comment I read earlier from Lycum Kenya. I don't think I'm going to forget it because I'm imagining a situation or a scenario where you have a rigid woman or that woman has a rigid spouse. And they are insisting that we must give birth the natural way, Yet all indications are that ACS is necessary. What do you do at that point as a midday?
So as a medical practitioner, you have to counsel the mother. In our career, we do counseling a lot. We tell you even during your antenatal care, even when you're in that labor ward, we counsel you on why we're doing what we're doing. So if her life is at risk and the baby's life is at risk, and we say, look, you can't deliver normally and you need to undergo a cesarean section, and despite all that effort and in making her understand like this is the way we need to go, if she declines, there's something called consent. Consent is ensuring your patient understands what procedure you're about to do and why you're doing it, or what medication you're giving and why you're giving it. So we normally take consent before any surgical procedure. So if she declines, consent, if she says, no, I'm not doing it, and she signs it, and, clearly it's indicated in that consent like she's declined, there's nothing really you can do. Yeah, you've cancelled her and she's declined. You cannot force.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Okay. And Doc, when you were talking about an emergency CS and the factors that lead to it, you mentioned when the baby is too big to pass through the birth canal. Yeah. So I am imagining a situation where it's twins, it's triplets, it's quadruplets. Is that a factor?
Yes, that's a factor. It's a good question. So twin delivery, it also depends. Triplets, that's a definite cesarean section. There's no negotiation. Twin delivery, it depends. You can have twins that share, that have their own like amniotic sac, like their own amniotic sac and their own placenta, like they're separate, like in their own separate like compartments. And in that case, if the first twin, for example, the head is now down, facing down, like ready to be delivered, that we can allow a normal delivery because the first twin will be delivered and the second twin can somehow be maneuvered and turn into the right position and be delivered. But in the event that the twins maybe share a placenta, then we recommend a cesarean section. Yeah, if they share a placenta and their own amniotic sac, definitely a cesarean section. Yeah, so triplets, anything above that for sure, that's a cesarean section. Yeah.
All right. Now, again, I take you back to something I said at the beginning when I was talking about the statistics, and I mentioned WHO talking about some unnecessary CSs, and I tried to read your what's it called? Verbal, what's it called? There's a word for it. you know, your face and
body language.
Yeah, body language. How can I forget that? Your body language. I tried to read that because there was some reaction to Doc.
Yeah.
I mean, unnecessary CSs.
I can't say. I mean, we don't. There's no unnecessary CS.
There's no
unnecessary CS. We have, as COGS, we have local guidelines. We also have international guidelines on why the indications of cesarean sections. And if you're undergoing antenatal care and your doctor feels like they're not comfortable with you having a normal delivery, then they usually recommend a cesarean section. Maternal request, by the way, is also an indication. Yeah. If you say, like, if you tell me as your patient, like, you don't want to undergo normal delivery, I will respect that. That's a maternal request, and I will indicate in the consent form that you requested for a cesarean section. Yeah.
So there is no unnecessary CS.
There is no unnecessary CS.
All right,
Yeah.
Minnie, let me come back to you. I feel like I've kept you out in the cold for a while now. I want to know about looking back right now. You know, it's been 2 CSAs, yeah? And I remember asking whether you had a conversation with your medic, what Dr. Angela here is talking about. Looking back, what do you wish you knew about a CS?
I wish I knew how I could take care of the wound, because I think I failed on that. Because it opening up, I think I just failed, because I was walking around, I was doing my chores as usual. I think I just failed, because I was still feeling strong, so I wasn't, I didn't want to rest much. Yeah.
All right. You talked about your first CS and you're already walking that very day.
Yeah,
the first CS.
Yes.
Yeah,
but I was very young. I think age was still a factor.
Wow.
Yeah, I was 20. I think I was 23. Yeah, I was very young.
But you're strong. I mean, you have to take that. You're a strong woman.
But when I compare the second one and the first one, you know, they are very different.
Yeah, heaven and earth.
And I wanted to ask Doc,
sure.
Why was I feeling so much pain after the second one? You know, I wasn't sure if they didn't give me the right medication for the pain. Up to now, I'm not sure what really happened.
Well, you also mentioned you had a previous cesarean section. Now, when you have any surgery, your body is not the same again, because you have cuts, you bleed, and there's a process of healing that's going on. And what does healing do? It forms scars. So maybe there may have been a lot of scar formation, which we call adhesions. And when you have adhesions inside your abdomen, that can make the surgery a bit more difficult. Like the second surgery, it can make it a bit more difficult. And that can lead to predisposed to now complications in the recovery time. Yeah.
Right, okay. And I like that. Thank you, Minnie, for posing that question to Dr.
And I think I have several. At least I have the chance now to answer them.
Yeah, and please do, by the way, because you know what, you're also asking for someone who's watching. There are probably some questions that I won't ask. So if you have any, feel free to say it.
I think I'll spread them out.
Please do. Okay, okay. All right, but Nick tells me we need to take a short break here on TV47 Weekend Edition, #Hasay. What, Nick? Oh yeah, you can actually send in your questions via WhatsApp. That number there on the lower thirds below your screen, okay? Send in your questions and Dr. Angela shall be gracious enough to respond to all of them.
On Instagram, Dr.Anzeze, on Instagram, Facebook.
Most definitely, okay. So let's take that break. Don't go anywhere, stay with us. We come back with this informative and insightful conversation on cesarean sections. Stay with us.
Wanasema wasemao kuwa elimu ni bahari haiishi kwa kuchotwa. Wakati mwingi natangamana na wanafunzi madarasani, sio kama mwalimu bali kama nahodha kwenye kipindi cha tasnia ya elimu. Na iwapo utanikosa madarasani, basi utanipata nyanjani nikisaka habari zenye usawa, ufasaha na ukweli. Na iwapo utanikosa nyanjani, bila shaka utanipata studioni hapa nikisoma habari na kuendesha mijadala mikomavu. Mimi ni Andrin Kilemi, mpenzi wa lugha ya Kiswahili na elimu kwa jumla.
They say money makes the world go round. So let's slow things down a bit. Put things in perspective. From the markets to the streets to the stocks, we make the complex comprehensible. Join me, Said, on TV47 Business News for market insights like never before.
What's making the headlines? What does it mean to you? How does it affect you? We answer all these questions every Sunday for half an hour on To The Point Show. Hey, I'm Grace Kuriakanja, and a lot has happened this week. Let's dive into it.
The news that matters the most is the one that hits close to home. When disasters strike, we are there to inform you. When the bullets are flying, we tell you who's shooting and why. Reporting on your victories, your health, your money, your security, your past, present, and future. We are interested in telling the stories of creativity, hard work, and resilience that you are known for.
That is our job. This is my job. My name is Victor Moyakane, and it's my honor to bring you this news this way every Thursday night on the home of Untold Stories.
Katika majengo haya, hapa ndipo sheria zinapotungwa na zinapopakuliwa. Nitakuletea viongozi mbalimbali, mirengo mbalimbali, wote kwa pamoja wakipika na kupakua. Tutawapa nafasi kuweza kuangazia changamoto na mafanikio ya ugatuzi.
Right, thank you so much for staying with us. Just taking a look at some of your feedback here, especially on Twitter. A lot of you saying you're watching. Gikonyo Mushiri, this is an ardent fan of Hase and TV47 Weekend Edition. Thank you so much for always tuning in from Kamasharia in Kamune. Asante, yeah? And of course, he's saying he's enjoying the conversation, which he finds insightful, yeah? So, there's so many things that Minnie here, actually Minnie Mururi, who is a mother and digital marketer, and of course Dr. Angela Anzeze, an obstetrician gynecologist. There's so many things you two are saying, and I'm getting so many follow-up questions. For instance, I intended to come back with what she talked about, the wound opening, yeah? But I want to take a pause because I want to go back to the benefits of having a CS, because we're talking about the risks associated with it, the complications that may arise. But you mentioned it takes a shorter time, 1 hour, yeah?
That's the average.
Yes, that's the average.
Longer, or it can take shorter.
But surely there must be some benefits of a CS, yeah? Which are?
So benefits, I would not really call them benefits, but more of, well, benefits in terms of health, yeah. So you reduce the risks on the mother and the baby. If the condition of the baby is at risk, then you deliver the baby at a certain time to prevent those risks or those complications from occurring. So those are one of the benefits.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, Doc, that expression on my face is because there's so many questions. Hey, Bana.
Well, they can reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook, or even come to my clinic at Nelson Awori Center.
Because one is asking, she doesn't give her name. Which one is better between normal delivery and CS? I mean,
I can't
really
say
a choice?
I can't say one is better than the other. It just depends on the condition of the mother and the condition of the baby. Yeah.
Most definitely. There's one here that I actually had on my notes here, because mine was, is there a limit to how many CSs a woman can have? And this one here, some designer is asking, how many children can a mother have through C-section?
I can't say there's a specified number. I can't tell you have one and that's it, or have two and that's it, or have three and that's it. What I can tell you, if you're a patient that is undergoing antenatal care, I can tell you the risks associated with having multiple cesarean sections. And so placental issues, your placenta abnormally attaches to the uterus, or is abnormally located in the uterus, and that predisposes you to having complications at delivery. So you may bleed a lot, which is called postpartum hemorrhage. Risks of having a uterine rupture. The scar may give away, especially if you've had multiple cesarean sections and you have labor. Because if you've had multiple cesarean sections, we tell you, come for your CS before labor. Yeah, so we tell you like 39 weeks, for example, before you go through labor. So if you have labor and you have multiple scars, that puts you at risk of having a uterine rupture and bleeding at delivery, which sometimes may be fatal.
All right, okay. There's so many more questions. We shall get to that, and of course I do have my own. But Minnie, there's something you mentioned about what I would call support, emotional support especially, and physical too, from your husband, because you said that you actually left this, was it days-old baby with your hubby to just figure out what to do with her? I mean, how important is such kind of support to mothers, to new mothers?
They really need support. Because for me, I had the best support in the world, because he was there. Even though we were only two, he gave me the best support in this world. He cared for the baby when I couldn't. And that's all what mothers want. Just being assisted around, especially with a baby.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I shall come back to you. There's so much we need to do tonight with so little time, okay? Doc, let's talk about, it's a three-tier question, because what women should know as you prepare for a CS, that's during the 9 months, what to expect at the hospital. In my research, I came across preventing blood clots, what you guys do, putting you under anesthesia and all, and what to expect after the C-section at home. It's a three-tier.
Okay. So antenatally, of course, that's why we emphasize the importance of antenatal care. So we counsel you on why we're doing the CS, the procedure. So we start preparing you early enough. The procedure, how it's gonna be, what scar you're going to get and things like that, and the type of anesthesia you're going to get. So antenatal care, we prepare you and we tell you why you're undergoing the cesarean section. Now, when you come to hospital, when we finally admit you for the cesarean section, we take consent, which was what I explained earlier. We basically seek your permission for you to undergo the procedure. And we explain again why we're doing the procedure. So we need to ensure that you understand why we're doing the cesarean section, how it's going to be done, expected hospital stay, expected complications and also risks if you don't undergo the procedure. So that's what we do when you get admitted. And we also talk about now the care. So care involves walking around, which she did, so that was not the wrong thing to do. Actually, you're very right to walk around, because walking around encourages blood flow. Remember, you've been pregnant, and being pregnant on its own makes your blood have a higher tendency to clot. So pregnancy and also undergoing any surgery increases your tendency to the blood to clot. So we encourage you to walk around as soon as you can, and we give you medications like blood thinners to prevent you from having a clot. Other care is like I was talking about earlier, hygiene, so wound care. So while you're in hospital, your wound is covered, right? But when you're discharged, it's exposed. And when it's exposed, now we have a look at the wound. Before we discharge you home, we have to ensure the wound is okay. So is it bleeding? Is there anything unusual? Is it like opened up, for example? Or is there any discharge from the wound coming out? And if there's any of those things, we don't let you go home. We stay and take care of the wound.
All right.
Yeah, but if the wound is okay, we encourage the mom to, once we expose the wound, we tell her, like, now you can have a normal shower, like preferably with clean running water. Avoid touching the wound a lot, especially with your bare hands. And we give you antibiotics to take to prevent infection, and also a spray, an antiseptic spray as well, to ensure that the wound doesn't open up. And we also give you, vitamins to encourage wound healing. Like vitamin C is a very good vitamin for wound healing. So yeah, things like that.
All right. I feel like we're already in the aftercare stage,
Yeah.
of this conversation. Minnie, I shall come to you to talk more on the wound and how you were taking care of it. You mentioned it did open, but basically how you were doing it at home. But there's so many questions, Doc. One here says, I'm Teresia from Machakos. My question is, I'm 3 months post-CS delivery. Can I do exercise to reduce my tummy?
Yes, 3 months, definitely the healing has taken place, both inside and on the outside of the wound. So yeah, you can do exercise, but I'd say be cautious, avoid lifting heavy weights, because it can predispose you to having a hernia or like just a weakening around the scar. Yeah.
What are the do's and don'ts after AACS?
So walking around is a do. Hygiene, avoiding lifting heavy weights is a don't. Don't lift heavy weights. Not taking your medication as you're supposed to. And we also encourage breastfeeding as much as you can, because if you don't breastfeed, you get breast engorgement and pain, and that can also predispose to other issues like infections and all that on the breast. So we encourage breastfeeding and diet. So ensure that you take high fiber diet, because we need to ensure that your stool is soft. Because if you have hard stool, if you're constipated, that can cause strain and may also affect the wound.
Yeah. All right. So I was waiting for past 10 p.m. because this is the watershed hour. It's 10:15, because I had a question on that bit of do's and don'ts. Intercourse with your partner, is it encouraged, or I don't know after how long you should wait to have that? And also, Alice here from Meru is asking, her first question is what may lead one to undergo CS? We did answer that. But her second question is it advisable to make love with your partner until delivery time?
So after CS, we give you 6 weeks. Yeah. 6 weeks to heal, and you can resume intercourse. Is that what she was asking?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Okay, that's pretty much it. 6 weeks. Yeah. Hi, Doc. I'm Christine. I went through C-section, and the reason as to why I went through it is because my amniotic fluid was 6 centimeters. Is that a good reason?
Maybe she needs to expound more.
I know. Christine, if you are still watching us, just expound on your question, and Doc here will be gracious enough to answer it. Blessed Bella from Bungoma, she says she was taken in for CS due to prolonged labor. It is 7 years now. She has never conceived again. She was an adult in primary. She's now in her early 40s. So she's asking, is there a probability that I may not have another kid?
No.
Because of a CS? No.
A CS does not affect your ability to have another child unless that CS had complications and maybe you bled a lot and you ended up having a hysterectomy or your uterus being removed because of the heavy bleeding to save your life.
All right, okay.
Or maybe infections, like severe infections can affect your tubes. Yeah.
All right. And, you know, I love it when the men to ask questions because granted, this is her say, it's a women's show. But funny enough, when we have, I remember we once had a conversation on reproductive health and breastfeeding, and most of the callers were men. So actually, wow, this happens. And Erastus Mukangai is asking, can a fetus with a short cord predispose a woman to CS? Then how about private or public health institutions? Because we see, no, we pretty much answered that. So answer that bit on a fetus with a short cord predisposing a woman to a CS.
No.
No. No. Okay.
A cord around the neck, maybe a long cord, a very long cord can predispose the fetus having it around the neck, and you know what happens, it strangulates and affects you know, the baby's blood supply and things like that, so that can predispose to a cesarean section.
All right, so Alice, remember the one who was asking about no, she's asked another question. For one to deliver normally, how many centimeters should one be?
Fully dilated.
Fully dilated.
10 centimeters.
All right, 10.
Yes.
Okay, okay, fine. So let me put a pause there. We shall get back to that. And I want to engage Minnie here. I did mention that I would ask you about how you were taking care of yourself in terms of the wound at home, with available, of course, treatments at home.
Okay, I'll start by asking Daktari a question. You talked about being discharged with an open wound. That didn't happen to me. I was discharged with my wound covered with bandage. Were they wrong? Or
no, they were not wrong. Sometimes it may be okay to take precautions and cover the wound for a bit longer. Well, the average time is 3 days. You may cover it longer and ask you to come maybe on the 5th day and have a look at the wound.
Actually, they told me to come after 2 weeks. I know that's funny. And they asked me to take a full body shower during the first day after my CS. Were they right?
I can't say they were right or wrong.
Because every time I try to imagine what really happened, what made my CS wound open.
Well, like I'd explained earlier, if you've undergone a previous CS or any previous surgery, you go through scar formation and what you call adhesions. And when you form adhesions, it makes the next surgeries more difficult and likely to have complications. So those complications include you're at a higher risk of having infection on the inside and even on the outside on the wound. You're also at a higher risk of having excessive bleeding. You're at a higher risk of staying in hospital longer. Yeah, so yeah.
All right.
That's one of the risk factors of having complications in the next surgery and having those, post-operative complications.
All right, thank you.
Now answer mine.
Okay, now to answer you.
It's fine, you're allowed.
I was discharged with antibiotics, so I was like taking ×2 a day, I can remember well. And for the aftercare, I didn't do much because the wound was covered. So I just took the meds. Yeah.
So in terms of like cleaning, like what Doc here was talking about,
I couldn't clean because it had a bandage.
Yeah.
Well, even taking antibiotics on its own also prevents infection. So that's still okay.
All right, okay. So I look a bit distracted because there's so many questions. To be honest, I didn't expect this, but there's so many. And from the men, like I said, Warren Milia is asking, I believe we answered this, how many consecutive CSs can one handle? And then, does CS predict how many pregnancies one can handle? Those are pretty much the same questions,
Yeah, I can't tell you don't have a third child, don't have a fourth child, don't have a fifth child. But what I can tell you is the risk associated with having multiple cesarean sections.
Which you did, actually. I remember that.
Yeah.
Teresia here, who asked whether it's okay to exercise to reduce her tummy. Remember, she's 3 months post-CS delivery. Is asking whether that exercise can now affect milk production.
No.
No.
There's no relationship.
Absolutely not. Okay.
Unless she's exercising excessively to the point now it's affecting her hormones. Yeah.
How about for people who used to exercise before pregnancy and during pregnancy? I mean, is there a limit? When you say, you know, don't do it too much, how much is too much?
I can't tell you how much is too much. I mean, exercise in moderation is okay. Yeah. So long as you're not overstretching yourself, lifting heavy weights, overdoing it. Yeah. Exercise is actually recommended once you've healed. Yeah.
Once you've healed. Yeah. Okay, I love our viewers because they have so many questions. Alice, again, is asking, why is it that sometimes the delivery date has reached and no labor pains? This is Alice. She says she's enjoying the show and learning.
So, yeah, there's some women who are just predisposed to not having labor start once they reach their due date. And that's what you call postdatism. Yeah, postdatism or, you know, beyond your due date, that's postdatism. Yeah, so some women are predisposed to having postdatism. Others have had to undergo induction of labor, and that happens now in subsequent pregnancies. So if your previous pregnancy you were induced, you're likely to be induced in the next pregnancy and so on. So it just varies. Yeah.
All right, and there's a question that I came across during my research on the cut for the CS. I mean, is the same scar cut for a CS?
Yeah, where the previous scar was, that's the same place. We recommend that you go through. However, some factors may affect that. For example, if the extraction is difficult, the baby may be too big for, you know, going through that small. So you may have to extend the scar, or you may have to form another scar, which is not, you know, the best. But at the end of the day, you need the baby out. Yeah, you need the baby to survive. You need the mother to survive. So you have to do what you have to do.
Most definitely.
Yeah. So, but usually we go through the same. Where the previous scar was, that's where we go through.
But then again, when you say that's not the best, having another scar, why is that?
Because cosmetically, I mean, it doesn't look very, and also it may predispose you to, well, but not always, infection sometimes, yeah, because of just the general care, yeah.
All right, okay. There's something else about laughing and sneezing and coughing when you have the stitches.
Yeah.
And my research told me to put a pillow over the stitches and press onto oneself. Is that true? I don't know. Google
no, laughing, coughing, I mean, those are normal things. It doesn't increase your pressure so much that it will cause the scar to give way. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so no.
All right, that's interesting. Minnie, let me come back to you because you've told us about your first pregnancy and your experience with CS and the second one. But I'm curious on whether your experience with the second pregnancy and the second CS made you, say, fear getting pregnant another time, Minnie.
I think I'm just done.
You are done?
Yeah, I'm just done. I'm not ready to go through that again.
Because of what you experienced?
Yes, especially with the second one. Yeah, the pain, you know, the back pain, you know, it's on another level. It's around 7 years now, but I can still feel the back.
7 years?
Yes, the back pain is too much. And then there's this numbness around my scar. I don't think I'd want to go through that again. So I'm just done with giving birth.
Okay, we hear you, Minnie. And thank you for answering, by the way. That was like an intrusive question, yeah? We have 3 minutes left. Can you believe it?
Wow.
What's her name? Joy is asking whether a placenta grade 2, I honestly don't understand that, but I'm sure you do, whether a placenta grade 2 necessitates a CS.
Well, grade 2 is not, so what happens? So the grading, so what happens with the placenta? The placenta is normally attached on the uterus, and it's usually on the upper part in a normal pregnancy. In some situations, it may end up migrating and move lower. So the closer it is to, so your uterus is like shaped like that, and then the cervix is where now the baby comes out through. So the closer it is to the cervix, or covering the passage of where the baby is supposed to pass, the higher the grade. So it's up to 4. So the closer it is, or even completely covering the passage of the cervix, now that's a high grade, that's grade 4. Yeah. If it's away, maybe like grade 1 or 2. So grade 1 is the farthest, grade 2 is like kind of in the middle, grade 3 is close, and grade 4 is now covering the cervical opening. So grade 1 or 2, it depends. Is she bleeding? Is she not bleeding? Yeah, because it's not covering the passage, so she may deliver normally. But something like grade 3 or 4, it's very close to the cervical os. I mean to the opening, and that for sure she may need a cesarean section.
Right.
Yeah.
Completely out of time, but Alice is asking whether induced labor can cause any complications.
Yes, it may. Induction of labor is now starting labor by medication. And this may cause maybe the woman to undergo a fast labor, which is called precipitate labor. And precipitate labor may predispose to bleeding after delivery. Another possible risk is uterine rupture. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So about 2 minutes left. Nick or 1? Okay. He will tell me later on, but I need to get your closing 1 minute. That's what he says. Your closing remarks. I'll start with you, Minnie, because you just told us that umefunga chapter. Na mzee anajua.
Hata tulishaelewana.
Tukaongea mkakubaliana. Sasa mtu anakuwatch saizi, mwanamke anakuwatch saizi mwenye probably has that fear, has made the decision that you have, or went through what you went through with your second CS. What would you tell them?
Not much. At times it happens because there's nothing we can do to just move on and just accept whatever happened and try to heal and get as much support as they can. Yeah.
And not to probably express it on the baby, right?
But sometimes
you can't help.
You can't help.
Doing it.
Exactly, you can't help it. At times, it happened with my firstborn. I was in so much pain, and he had so much colic. It came to a point I was just leaving him to just cry. At times, you don't know when you're doing.
That's true. Postpartum.
Yes,
yes. Comes in.
So I can't really talk about that.
Yeah.
Whatever I can just advise them is to try and get much support and to talk about it. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And I like that. I love that, because sometimes when especially PPD is happening, you actually don't know. It's there, yeah? Doc, your closing remarks. Uterine rupture. Alice, is it Alice? Yeah, hey, Alice, uko na maswali mengi, lakini asante. She says tumuulizie hii swali before we close. What is it?
It's like rupture of the uterus, literally. So the previous scar where it was giving way, or like it rupturing.
Ruptures,
yes.
Basically.
Yes.
Yeah. Your closing remarks.
So as COGS, we recommend antenatal care and counseling of women who are scheduled for cesarean section, and telling them why they have to undergo the cesarean section, and also talking to them about the procedure and the aftercare. So we recommend that women, and also ask us questions regarding like the signs you see when you go home, things like bleeding, things like severe headaches, things like discharge from the wound. Yeah, so tell us, communicate to us if you experience any of those danger signs, and go to hospital immediately. Yes.
And Doc, I need to be fair to my people, because clearly you need to give them your details, yeah? I don't know what you're comfortable with. One is actually asking for your WhatsApp number. I don't know if you're comfortable with that. But whatever details that you're comfortable, because there's so many questions. Another one asking, apart from breech, what are the factors lead to CS, which we discussed. But I feel like they have so many questions for you. So where do they find you?
So they can reach out to me on Instagram, Dr.Anzeze, that's A-N-Z-E-Z-E, on Instagram, Facebook, and we will get back to them. And also my clinic at Nelson Awori Center. if you wish to have consultation.
That's
You're most welcome.
Upper Hill?
Yes, that's in Upper Hill.
All right, okay. So there you have it, yeah? In case so many more questions still coming in, but we're completely out of time, so do reach out to Dr. Angela there, and she shall respond to all of them. Thank you so much. Minnie Mururi, a mother and a digital marketer, and you haven't marketed yourself?
Yes, I'm a digital marketer. I specialize in SEO, so I help businesses become visible on Google. Yes.
All right, okay.
Yes.
That's what she does.
Good to know.
Yeah. And of course, Dr. Angela Anzeze, an obstetrician gynecologist and a member, Kenya Obstetrical and Gynecological Society. Thank you so much, ladies, for your time and your contribution tonight. We do appreciate it. Clearly, it's been insightful, it's been informative, educative. This is how you tell that it has been all the engagement on social media. Thank you for your time and your company and your questions. I do appreciate them on WhatsApp, on Twitter, and all the other social media platforms. Thank you to the entire crew that made this production a success. My name is Grace.